Hey guys, welcome to Cheap Old Cars and Audio. As always, my name is John. At least I think so. So, I've tried to record this a couple times and I keep going off on tangents, and hopefully I can get through it this time. I want to make YouTube my job, right? I'm going to give a little bit of backstory on myself and it kind of explain that. So, I have an MBA. I've worked for 20 plus years in the corporate world, most recently as a pricing analyst for a multinational manufacturing company. Yeah, lots of spreadsheets, lots of Excel, lots of mind-numbing meetings, and I kind of got tired of it, right? I don't want to say I've got burnt out, but I got burnt out. And so I'm giving this YouTube thing a shot. It's something I've always been interested in, really itch. I've always been a little bit of a creative person, and that side of me was pushed down a little bit because, I grew up in the blue-collar South, and you shut up and get to work, right? That's kind of how things go. Now, I'm not saying I was oppressed or whatever, anything like that. Nothing like that. Just that kind of personality and, creative mind was not really appreciated. So I am struggling a little bit to kind of like, hey, I'm pivoting my career here, but I do want this to be my career. So, I got one of Cletus's hats here. I really like his channel, Cletus McFarland or Garrett Mitchell. Really respect that. By the time he was in his 20s, he had multiple businesses and employed many people. That's an amazing thing, and that's something I want to do with my channel as well. So, I'm watching Tyler Hoover, Hoovie's Garage, and then April's Garage. My wife really likes to watch April's Garage. We watch that together whenever they post. That's where I want to get to, and I know that he has a cameraman that works for both of their channels and helps film, and I'm sure helps edit and all these things. So yeah, that's a point that I would like to get to. Yes, I would like to make this YouTube thing my job. I don't know if I can. I've got a lot of ideas. I'm trying to figure out a place for myself in all of this and do things that people might find interesting and fun to watch. So right now, what I'm doing, let me finish that thought. I really want to get to a point where I can host events and I can employ people. I want to be an employer of people that helps other people do their things. If somebody that's into video editing, they can eventually help me do that. Or if it's someone that's into cars but maybe doesn't want to do the in front of camera thing, maybe someone that can kind of follow their passion and their dream instead of having to do the mind-numbing, soul-crushing 20 plus years of office work that I did. No, I'm not saying the office thing is bad. I just maybe it's not for me. If I have to go back to it, I'll have to go back to it. But I'm really giving this a shot. And so the longer form content like this video here, I won't be doing this every day for forever, right? It might be better to post like 2 videos a week, maybe one on Thursday or Friday night, and then maybe a longer one on Saturday mornings. I really like how Legit Street Cars does his videos. You get that longer form content on Saturday mornings, and he kind of takes the place of those old Saturday morning car shows I used to watch on, was it TNN or TNT or whatever? I think TNN. All the Shade Tree Mechanic and Muscle Car and all that, And so that's kind of the space I want to be in. I do want to make this my job. I do want to get to a point where I'm making money on YouTube enough to live off of. Now, my wife has a shirt business as well. She makes designs and precious shirts. So if I get to a point where I do merchandise, she can at least start that for me. If it grows big, and that is my dreams and aspirations. I don't, maybe I don't want to have 3 or 4 million subscribers, but 1 million subscribers is the goal. I hope that I'm entertaining enough to get there. I don't know. I'm giving it a shot, though. I think right now I'm just going to start spamming these longer form videos. Now, I was watching VinWiki this morning, and Tyler Hoover was on, and he was talking about how he feels there's a gap in the car news world, and I'm going to try to fill that gap a little bit. I agree with him that there's a gap, but I don't agree with him as much as he would maybe. I don't agree there's as much of a gap as he thinks there is. He might not be aware of the channels. So Cooper Paghetti, who used to work with Cletus, he does car news stuff, and he's doing that more now. And then David with That Dude in Blue, or he is That Dude in Blue. He does news as well. And so there are people doing these things, but not all content gets out to everybody, or not everybody likes to watch certain people or listen to everybody. So maybe my voice and my old mug here is something that, you know, you might want to hear. Give you car news. I don't know. I like to think that I have a decent voice, and maybe I have a face for radio. My wife seems to like it. I don't know why. But, yeah. So, I think I'm going to post some of this as well. So, there will be drive videos. I'm kind of conflicted on the drive videos. I know that most people that do YouTube, even when it's driving content, it's not focused on the car and the drive. It's person focused and personality focused. So even like when Cletus does his, you know, his drag strip runs, you see the car go down the strip, but there's always that camera pointed at him. You can see his eyes, like, oh, your eyes get big if a car does something he doesn't expect or whatever. So it's always person focused, and that is a little bit difficult for me because I've always been a bit of an introvert and a wallflower. So my focus was always, what's the suspension doing? What are the wheels doing? You know, how what does the camber look like mid corner? Can we get a camera angle down there and just watch the tire as it turns in corners? That thing focused side of it has always been where I'm at. However, I'm learning that might not get the most views. Like yesterday, I posted a drive in my Green Bullet, and the average watch time was just under 3 minutes, right? And so just under 3 minutes the video is a little over 7 minutes long, so that put it about halfway through the driving content part of it. Now, I really like the driving content part of that video, but it seems like people were more interested in maybe listening to what I had to say about the car and just a little bit of driving stuff. So I'm gonna have to rework how I film, and let's not say rework. I'm figuring all this out right now as I go, so I have no clue what I'm doing. Right? I'm trying to understand and make something of this, but I really, really, really want to make something of this. I want this to be my job. I will work 12, 14, 16 hours a day if I can be my own boss, and that's what I want. I don't want to work for someone else. Right? Now, you always work for someone else. I would always be working for views or for my fans if I get to that point. Also, oh my gosh, 81 subscribers, guys. 81 subscribers in just over a week. I'm shook. I'm flabbergasted. Beside myself. I cannot believe I have 81 subscribers. Now, I'm going to say this when I get to 100. I'm going to say this when I get to 150 and 200 and 250 and all the way up. I want 1 million subscribers. That is my goal. If it goes beyond 1 million, that'll be great. But 1 million subscribers is my goal, and 60% of my subscribers watching at least 50% of my long form content. That's my goal. I hope that I can be entertaining enough for that. I do know that I've got a personality, but I don't often show it or express that very much. A lot of times I'm kind of stoic and keep that, goofy and irreverent side of myself kind of under wraps. I'm going to work on that and see if I can be a little big in front of the camera, I guess. This is a whole thing for me. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. This long form content, I can't remember if I said this or not, but I'm kind of doing long form content every day, and I might continue to do that in terms of news 3 or 4 a week. But I noticed in the analytics, I might have said this, I can't remember. I noticed in the analytics, it's more of that Friday evening, Saturday morning stuff. So I think the Friday evening, Saturday morning area is where my car content will be. I do run into a little bit of an issue with the car stuff because I've kind of got the Blue Bullet how I want it. I do want to make a few changes. I still want to do welded subframe connectors. I still want to do different springs. Right now it's on H&R Super Sports, which are a lowering spring, like to look good. And they actually ride better than the factory Bullet springs. But I want that car to be more serious in terms of handling. I've got the Corbeau seats in it, the Momo steering wheel, and an MGW shifter with a comfort handle. I really like the comfort handle for this type of driving. I do want that car to be a little more serious, not full on autocross or not full on, track car, nothing like that, but more geared towards handling. And so I think welded subframe connectors, and then swap to H&R race springs, and also swap shocks to probably just the Bilstein. The Bilstein B6 or the 4600 series is a good shock for that spring rate, from everything I've read. And also I've got the adjustable lower control arms that I'm going to put in it. Beyond that, I'm not really sure how far I want to go with the car. That will get me quite a big difference in terms of handling. The next thing beyond that would be, I don't think I want to go torque arm, because if you go torque arm, you're essentially changing the rear suspension design to from a triangulated 4-link to a 3-link. And I don't know if I want to go that far, because when you change that much, you have to change spring rates as well, and there aren't many springs for that setup. Then you can end up going to a coilover on the rear, and in my personal opinion, my opinion only, I don't like swapping from let's say, I don't like swapping over to a coilover system when the original shock tower mounts weren't designed to carry that much weight, right? I've noticed that there's some chassis reinforcements for the front of these Mustangs that I have for coilover guys, because they start getting some cracks in the upper kind of frame area where the front box around the engine comes out from the top of the firewall. They'll start getting some cracks up there on coilover cars, and it's honestly, those shock towers were never intended to carry that much weight and support the car in that way. So I don't like to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to stay with the kind of factory design. Now that's the front, and the rear is the same. There are places for coils to go, and those shock towers were never meant to handle the weight of the car. And even some coilover systems you get for those cars, it's a spring and shock separate, even though it's a coilover, because it's just really not meant to do that. So I want to stay with the factory design, and I know that does limit me some. I could swap to an IRS in those cars. The Cobras had the IRS. However, this is cheap old cars and audio, right? The IRS swap isn't a cheap thing. I've got in my Blue Bullet, I think I've got, let's see, I bought the car for 10. I've got 2,000, or I've got like 1,600 in wheels and tires, and then probably 1,000 in the drop with springs, caster camber plates, and shocks. If I swap those parts out, those parts will go in a different car, so I'll still be about 1,000 into the drop. So let's say I've got, I don't know, 13. No, I got the seats in there too. Let's say I got 14,000 in that car, right? I think that's about right. I think you have about 14,000 in it. So a Cobra IRS is like $3,000 with shocks, but it doesn't come with springs typically. And so I'd have to buy a different set of springs, and then I'd have to spend another $2,000 on a catback, because the Cobra catback comes under the rear end instead of over like the solid axle cars do. And so you're looking at 5,000, 5,500, maybe up to 6,000 after you do some maintenance to put an IRS on one of those cars. And then at that point, if I did, let's say $6,000 on top of the $14,000 I already have, then I'm $20,000 into a 265 horsepower Mustang. You know what you can get for $20,000, guys? For $20,000, you can get a C5 Z06, right? So it kind of doesn't make sense to go that far with that car. It makes the most sense to do the weld-in subframe connectors. If I can find some tubular A-arms that are stiffer A-arms, but still retain the factory spring mount location, I might do that. Most of the aftermarket A-arms are the coilover conversion A-arms, but it would be nice to, and maybe it would be good to do the K-member up front. I don't know. That's a lot of work for saving 30 pounds when I could just relocate the battery to the back. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about with the blue car. It's all a balance, right? So when cars are made from an OE, there's a balance of like it needs to be somewhat comfortable but handle this well, and there's all these trade-offs that you have to do, and that's what I'm having to do as well. Partly because of budget constraints, but partly because I don't see the point in putting $20,000 into a car that will be still worse than something else I could get for $20,000. I could sell that Blue Bullet and throw a little bit of money with it and have a C5Z06. I mean, I've seen a few with a little over 100,000 miles in the $19,000 range. That's tempting. That's really tempting because that's a lot of car for the money. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking with that car. And unfortunately, it's most of the way there. The welded subframe connectors, the different springs. I can change the springs on one of those cars in about 2.5 hours. All 4 springs. That's an easy thing to do. That would be a good thing for a time lapse video. So yeah, that's going to be a bit of a problem. So I want to take these cars for drives. I'm kind of rambling, but I'm bringing it back. I want to take these cars for drives a lot. There's the Talamina Scenic Drive around here, and then there's about an hour east of me. If I drive hour and a half to the east, I have access to some really, really, really good roads. I'm about an hour and a half from the Arkansas Dragon, which some people say is better than the Tail of the Dragon. I don't know. I've never driven the Tail of the Dragon. That's something I want to do. But when I'm looking around at other YouTube channels, the drive videos don't do super well. And like I said, I want this to be my job, so I want this to do well. So I'm going to have to find kind of my niche here of what does well versus what doesn't do well, and make what people want to watch fit my content, right? I don't want to say make my content fit what people want to watch. That's not what I want to do. And those two things it's a slight difference. But I need to make what I want to make and made in the ways that I want to make it fit what people want to watch. Yeah, I think I got that right. Because I really like the car aspect of it. I really like the drive aspect of it. The Green Bullet video I put out, I thought was really good. The best one I've ever made. I'm sure I can make better in the future. I'm sure my next video I make will be better. In this video I had a little intro that kind of started out black and then overlaid onto me talking. I want to get to a point where I can add in some of that duty-free music here and there. I've got a video I've recorded already doing an oil change on a few cars, and I think I might in a minute here record some of the narration for that. And what I want to do there is just talk about how you just get out and do your own maintenance, You don't have to take it somewhere. And sometimes working on cars can be cathartic, at least for me. I'm a calm person in a lot of these things. Like when I play video games with my son, he's freaking out and screaming and yelling. And I'm just like, just calm and cool, whatever. And so, when I go out and work on cars, I'm just up under there doing an oil change, got some music going, got a fan blowing some air so I'm not too hot or whatever. It's relaxing and fun. And I think if you're going to be into these old cars and keep them cheap, you have to keep it fun too. Otherwise, it's just going to be frustrating. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts on content or what you like to see, let me know, because I'm doing this as my job right now. Like I said, I stepped away from my corporate job. I've got some money to last about a year and a half, somewhere in there. Probably about a year before I need to find something else. And so I'm giving this a good go. I want to grow this channel. I want people to enjoy what I make. I want to make friends in the YouTube community. No, let me take that back. I want to make friends from YouTube in the car community. That means you guys. That doesn't mean other YouTubers. I don't want to get to a point where I'm going out on lavish parties with rich guys. That's not the goal. The goal is meetups and car things and just chat with cool people and do cool things, right? That's the goal. And then obviously pay my bills. I know it would be a long time before YouTube could pay my bills, but it does for some people, right? I struggle with that a bit. I'm be open here. The fact that I could create content and videos and that pay my bills instead of doing work for a company, I actually struggle with that in the old noggin because I was, I just brought it up to be like, you get yourself a job and you do it, and that's what you do. And so doing something like this is a struggle for me. And I want to prove to myself that I can make it and do well. And even if it's not something I do forever, even if I do this for 10 years or something and then decide to do something different, maybe in that time I can pay my house off. I don't know. It seems weird because I know some YouTubers make good money, like old Cletus, got his hat right here. Dude makes a ton of money. He has multiple airplanes. They don't talk about their bigger passenger plane. Not bigger, but I think it holds like 10 people or something. But that dude makes all kinds of money, and I'm not asking for something like that, and I'm not even chasing that. What I'm chasing is pretty consistently pay my bills. It'd be amazing if I could pay my house off. Build a garage in the backyard. And, stay here. I like my house. I got a half acre in town. I'm close to everything. I really enjoy it. Big goal is a car museum here in my town or the next town over. I live in Arkansas. And so I understand that my local business, my local clientele would be somewhat limited, but I want a car museum. And in that car museum, I would keep cool cars. Think more like Jay Leno's Garage type thing. Not to that scale and with those type of cars, but cars that I like, but they're all ready to go. They're all ready to drive. Newer tires on them. Batteries are charged, and the maintenance that would come along with that would be pretty fun too. Just the constant kind of rolling through stuff. But the other side of that is the kind of want this multi-purpose business. So a little museum with a pretty good sized parking lot, and I'll probably have to find some old retail building or something for this. But the parking lot can be used to host car shows. So you'd be able to rent the parking lot from me, right? And then the interior of the building, although part of it would be a museum that people can look at my cars, those are also my cars to drive. You would be able to, let's say you have an old Corvette or whatever, right? You'd be able to pay me an amount per month to store the car there as well. And it would be part of the museum. It's roped off and stuff, but it would stay on a battery tender. And if you need to come get your car and drive it or whatever, you get your car and drive it, right? We'll pull it out and clean it up or whatever, and you drive your car. So that kind of is like what Matt Farah's business that he has in California, where he stores people's cars. But I would offer that, but it would also be like kind of open to the public as well. You pay a $5 fee or whatever to get in, but you can go in and look at cars, right? Or maybe be free to get in. I don't know. Anyway, so I want this YouTube thing to work out, and this is big goals here. Is a little car museum that has a little car museum, 2, a parking lot that can be rented out for car shows, 3, an interior space that can be rented out for any events. And so let's say local homeschoolers need to have an event space or something to do something. They could rent that out. That'd be pretty cool. And then what was on two, I don't remember where I was. Oh, geez. But yeah, car museum, rentable parking lot, rentable interior space, rentable spots for your cars as part of the museum. And then what I'd also like to do with that is be able to, let's say, have a lift or 2 in there and bring in young people and do like an auto shop type class. Maybe offer classes on like changing your oil or changing your brakes on the weekends. And just, bring in some young people from a local school or whatever, or maybe do it through the week, right? I don't know. That makes more sense. But bring people in and teach them how to do some basic maintenance on their cars. And I could also eventually do some classes on auto detailing and things like that. So that'd be a lot of fun. That's big goals for my life, and that's where I want to take it. I'm 40 right now, so maybe by the time I'm 50, that's kind of the goal. By the time I'm 50, I can have all that. But I don't want to just be like, I want to grow this channel. I want this to be my job. But even if I do grow it to the point where it makes pretty good money, I don't want to be just some rich YouTuber that's just like, I don't know, the money seems to get to people's heads. I want a place where people can come together and chat and talk. And if I got to get food licenses and we'll have some donuts or something, maybe I can resell some donuts every morning. Just it'd be cool if there was a little place that you just come sit down and chat cars, and it's just like a car hangout. I know that there's a local older car community here in town, and they meet at this church parking lot. like every Tuesday or every other Tuesday or something like that. I don't want them to meet at that church parking lot. I want them to come down to my place and meet. And if it's really, really hot and there's enough room, maybe they could pull their cars inside, right? So let's say, a pie in the sky, absolute crazy thing would be like to buy an old Walmart building. And so it has a big door. If there's a dock door or something, I'd build a ramp up to it. Really long ramp so low cars could get up inside the building easy. And Cletus has his racetrack. I want like the ultimate car guy mecca where you can come and hang out. Another thing it could be used for too is like there's people that do like the cannonball stuff or drag and drive events and stuff. And if you're coming through this area, you need to use my shop, you let me know. Come in, use the shop, right? That's ultimate goals. That's like big dreams right there. That's what I want. And so, yeah, let's get there. I'm going to try. I'm going to keep putting out these videos. I think in just a minute here, after I get a drink of water, my throat's actually starting to hurt a little bit from talking. But I think I'm going to find something going on in the car news world and talk some car news, put that out there and see what happens. So, yeah, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Let's grow this thing together, and so I can create a place for us to come hang out. Hope you enjoyed. Let's watch the next one. Let's just keep watching until we all make it together. Thanks, guys.